Welcome once again to episode 5 of our podcast, Who Lied to You, where we bust myths and lies about different issues in life that have caused us a lot of stress, trauma, and other mental health issues.
Actually, if you had a phone, you had a cavity. And the most you would do with that is, what was that thing called? Pakalast. That's the most you would do.
Yeah.
Talk for hours, that's the most, like there was no...
But I remember as well that people even make this joke and say that the minute they had their parents' car putting a get bored, they would run to their bedrooms.
Left everyone, yes. What have you done? Arranged the place.
Exactly. So that it's not good to expose children to TV, to expose them to these gadgets. Let the child be bored.
Yes.
That was a statement. Let them be bored. Let them find joy within just being.
But we'll be bored.
Doing
There's
what?
coloring. There's art.
Exactly.
There's a lot. What do you mean being bored?
Other things like art, music.
Sometimes maybe they just want to play doodle. Sometimes they just want to play snakes and ladders. But spend time with them, whatever it is. Just spend time with them.
So today we're going to speak about something that has caused significant concern in the country, and that is about the levels of stress amongst children. It is quoted that in Uganda, a significant portion of children experience psychological distress, with a finding that 22.9% of children under 18 years suffer mental illness. So today, with my colleague here,
Jocelyn Kajumba,
and Flavia Rita Babide, we're going to bust the myth that children are rarely under stress. Our episode will be called, What Do You Mean You're Stressed? You Are Only But a Child. With me, I happen to be with Jocelyn, who is a neuropsychologist, and she specializes in helping children overcome trauma and stressful situations. And today we're going to start by just delving into the different causes of stress amongst children. We all know that even us as we're growing up, rarely did our parents recognize that we were stressed, but yet we were stressed. So today let's just speak about the different causes of stress among children and all. What has been your experience out there? What have you found that children struggle with the most and causes them a lot of stress?
Well, just not me. I speak for the many children that I work with.
Yeah.
Most of the children that I see, the root cause of the stress is always emotional neglect. It's always parents not having time for them. It's always parents not accommodating their emotions. And it doesn't have to be, let me have a very touching moment with my parent, with my dad, with my mom. It doesn't have to be something. It can be something as simple as, today math was hard and I just want to talk to dad about it.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be like an 1 hour conversation. It could be something as small as, math was hard and the teacher did not give me time to actually get to know the concept of what he was teaching. And you as the parent actually accommodating that time and being like, oh, it's okay, let's try this again. What exercise did you have? Let's see. That alone has caused so much stress within the children.
I remember growing up, we all experienced stresses, really. We went through different things. Some of us grew up in dysfunctional families. So you find that you're exposed to domestic violence, maybe, or you're exposed to a fight between your mom and dad, could be verbal, could be physical, and all these things can cause up a lot of emotions in you. And yet, like you said, emotional neglect, you have no one to actually open up to, and all these kind of things. I think, personally, the other thing that really stressed me was school. Going to school alone was stressful. First of all, me as Flavia and my twin brother, we entered boarding school at about 4 years old.
Wow.
So, but I remember my parents taking us to boarding school because my twin brother was very stubborn. And I think they didn't have time to. So they're like, you know what, let's take you to school. So at 5-6 years, we went into boarding school again. But you left your parents behind, you've left your siblings behind. Of course, you miss them and all this kind of thing. So it was kind of hard on us, I remember, personally for me. I think for the boy, he was okay. He was in amongst his boys.
Yeah.
It was a blast. Well, for me, I remember in Amagunga Primary, it was quite a different kind of setting and it was stressful. So there are lots of things that actually cause children stress and we kind of minimize them and all. But I don't know if you've had an experience with bullying. You could throw some light on that. Personally, I don't think I've gone through
Been
that. But
bullied?
yeah,
Okay.
I am such a strong head, I think. But yeah, also I went to those kind of schools where bullying was not tolerated. But maybe you could share with us an experience if you have one.
Well, I think I've been bullied. No, I know I've been bullied, but at that time I didn't see it as bullying, because I just joined secondary, and that's the time I actually entered boarding school in my senior one. So it was more of trying to fit in. So I knew this was something new for me, both from that standpoint of joining boarding school, joining secondary. So I knew it was normal. But with the kind of work I do right now, I work with different schools, and I've noticed that there's a lot of bullying that is happening. And when we actually get to do assessments with these children, we get to find out that the reason a bully will actually bully another child is because at home they are bullied. Either there's violence in the household, or there's they are being beaten, so their bodies know that there's danger coming, and they're trying to prevent that by actually being the first person to cause harm, so that they have control over the violence, they have control over they speak for the harm before it actually harms them. So we've noticed that so many children that are actually bullies are actually stressed at home because they are very
Exposed to toxic.
they're exposed to toxic stress, but also they can't help themselves. Either the dad beats them, the mom beats them, or both parents drink. There's a lot of violence happening, and they can't actually help themselves. They're needy, like they are vulnerable. So because that is happening in their bodies, so when they get to school or other environments, what happens is that now they have to do the bullying because they know there they do not have a say. The parents have yes, but now they control the situation. That's why you find most bullies have a group. They have like
Cliques and
they have cliques.
yeah.
Yes, and they're like the leaders. They're like the alphas of the
clique.
the cliques.
I think the other thing that we undermine as when you talk about the environment that children are exposed to back home, and then how it manifests through them in school, and maybe they go through the bullying and forming cliques and all that kind of thing. To me, it speaks to the fact that charity begins at home, and a lot of the things, like we all know, if a woman is stressed from work, she'll probably go home and put the stress on the children as well, right?
Absolutely.
If the dad is stressed at work as well, he'll probably take back the stress to the children unknowingly. So
Yeah.
we have found that a lot of things that affect us as parents, we inevitably and unknowingly and unintentionally pass them to our children. And so we need to look into ourselves and do something about ourselves. And that brings me to the fact that I remember when I was growing up as well. Well, I experienced a lot of stress from the fact that I was a firstborn daughter, taking care of 4 siblings. And probably during holidays, you have some people around. But the entire burden of taking care of your sibling lies on you. That for me was very draining at the time. I remember I used to dread. I couldn't wait for the day I would leave my parents' house, because I was tired of being the one to care for everyone and all these kind of things. So I know that a lot of people also out there experience it. You're still home, you're maybe the firstborn daughter, maybe you're the firstborn, could even be a guy, and the parents inevitably assign you the role of taking care of your siblings.
Deputy parent.
You become a deputy parent. at probably 10 years old, and you have your siblings to take care of. So those are all things that cause children stress, that cause stress amongst children, and we probably ignore them and all. But also, you talked about parents as well. I'm still going into that parents bit. Usually, I think growing up, our parents really didn't know what they were doing to us, definitely. So we sympathize with them to an extent because they didn't know that it would affect us in our old age. But
They did the best that
they could, yes, they could,
what they had, yeah, with the knowledge that they had, yes,
and all that. So I remember as well that I think you mentioned it earlier, emotional neglect. You know, our parents growing up, they knew that if you have food at home, you have TV,
I've paid your school fee,
you have clothes, I have paid your school fees,
there's electricity, there's water.
If the physical needs were catered to, then they didn't think probably that we needed emotional support as well, emotional provision and all that kind of thing. So it still goes back to us as parents that we need to look beyond the physical things that we give our children, but also cater to the emotional bit. So all these things are actually causing a lot of stress. I'm not shocked at that statistic. And I remember you saying that it's actually very low. You also suspect that it's actually higher than 22.9%.
Yeah.
But we don't know the details of that yet. I'm sure that statistic can be gotten with time, with more research, more with the increase in a sample size that is used for research and all these kind of things. But I think it is high time we bust the myth that children are not stressed. They're actually very stressed. And we are seeing a lot of different things happening to children. They're also getting depressed. They're having all these anxiety disorders. They're suffering from several mental illnesses out there.
We have the story of a child who just committed suicide.
Yes, they're committing suicide. They're getting addicted to all these kind of things and all. Societal pressures definitely, and societal lies are causing them to think that life is supposed to be easy. And so when they're faced with a certain stress, they usually can't handle it so well. So they resort to all these.
But also remember, Flavia, when we were growing up, we didn't have phones. Actually, if you had a phone, you had a Dakability. And the most you would do with that is, what was that thing called? Pakalast. That's the most you would do.
Yeah.
Talk for hours. That's the most, like, there was no access to internet. There was no, and there was a system. Like, you probably wake up, you do your house chores. After doing your house chores, you probably do your homework. Then you sleep. You had to sleep. Then you sleep. Then you wake up. Like, there was a routine.
Yes.
But now, we have children who have tablets, who have phones. They have access to all this information, and information is a lot out there. There's the good information, there's the bad information. Everyone has an opinion. Then there's social media itself. So there's a lot that our children are sucking in, and that is not there's good buffer.
Yeah.
So also that affects, because they are now comparing themselves. The most I would compare myself to when I was young is the neighbor. The most I would compare myself to is, the people around. But now we have...
I know the comparison is too much now. And I remember these pressures still came up when we were still in school. It is as well known there that you and I can't have the same thing.
Yeah.
You and I can't look similar in any way. You and I come from different backgrounds and different families, come from different financial statuses and all. But the comparison has always been there. And I think it is worse now with the information overload that you're talking about. And so it has caused a lot of stress among children. And it is eating them away, unfortunately. Yeah, so there's a lot of things in schools that is happening, I think, but that as parents, we can do something about, but also we need to build our children with some mental resilience against these things. Let's talk about the adolescence, actually. Now that you speak about comparison, beyond the money, the schools we've come from, the families we've come from. Oh dear, adolescence was one stressful time for me.
Yeah.
Yes, it was a stressful time in its own way. I remember, like we said, comparison.
Yeah.
You reach P5, P6, your friends have grown boobs. Yeah. The same. And then you realize that, am I normal? No, me, I don't have boobs yet. I remember at that time actually buying boob tubes. My mom would give me money to go and do shopping
else, and you paid boob tube.
and I would end up using it, but also make sure that I save some money, even if it's just for one bob tube.
Yes.
Just to know, feel that
Yeah.
I have boobs as well. Yes. And so comparison, yes, can cause stress. I know that also among men.
Yeah. When you don't get that deep voice,
Exactly.
that beards.
Exactly. Some people use what? Silver nitrate. Some boys use silver nitrate to get the O and whatever, the comparison. That you go into your corner alone. I think, the other one has beards. Me, I don't have. The other one has boobs. Me, I don't have. The other one probably has grown a bum. Me, I don't have. Like, these things are normal. But
Actually, for the boys, I think they even make fun of you when you don't have that deep voice. And that can be stressful.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So stress comes from so many things around us, and we need to watch out for our children.
Yeah.
We need to be there for them and not neglect them emotionally just because we are providing the physical needs and all that. For me as a parent, I know that sometimes I need to put my busy schedules aside and sit with my girls and just talk about whatever happened at school or happened at home while I was not there, and all, because like you said, a lot of us were emotionally neglected back then. But I think that's because our parents didn't know how to also express their emotions. They hadn't learned how to, and they were told that maybe you don't show emotions, you look weak. So we give them some grace over that. But for us, now that we know better, we definitely can do better.
Yes.
We need to do better. So for me, that is eye-opening.
Because actually, the trade-off, what you're talking about, the parent, the trade-off is expensive.
Very.
Because you're trying to finish this project at work.
Yeah.
But then you're missing your child's steps. Yeah. You're trying to have this meeting and you're being an excellent person
at what you're doing.
In the office. But then when you get home, you may miss helping your child with home. So we definitely understand with that. Yeah, that trade-off is very expensive. It's very expensive and emotionally taxing.
But it's better than treating your child of an addiction.
Yes.
Later on in life.
Absolutely. Yeah.
It's better than treating your child of mental illness and physical illnesses, whatever may come up later on in life. I've come to find that there's nothing as good as good health. When you have health, you can do so much with yourself. But if you don't have it, so in light of that, we need to actually be accommodative and remember to. So what are those things you would tell parents out there to do better for their children? Give us some solutions, maybe what you've seen that has worked, and to prevent this stress and the trauma that we are.
Find out what your child likes doing, loves doing, not what you love doing. Because some parents love watching football and then they force their children to love the same sport, the same team. You find the dad and the son wearing the same
jerseys.
Yeah. Find out what your child loves. Go and spend time with them. Go do it with them. That's one of the first things I would recommend. The second thing would be actually make time out of your busy schedule. Make time, even though it's just 5 minutes. Talk to your child. Tell them, how was your day today?
Yeah.
What happened? Tell me about your friends. Tell me about, it doesn't have to be a lengthy conversation. Just even the child knowing that, oh, dad, mom, who, any caretaker, the guardian wants to know how my day went. That alone is healing. Because, at the end of the day, we don't have great men. Because no one is born a man. We have great boys who grow up into great men.
And
we have great girls who grow up into great ladies. So at the end of the day, we need to just make time and accommodate the emotions. Sometimes maybe they just want to play doodle. Sometimes they just want to play snakes and ladders. But spend time with them, whatever it is, just spend time with them, play with them, talk to them, and actually find out, genuinely be open to listening to whatever they want to talk about. Genuinely. Don't just listen and talk over them, but actually hear and listen what they're trying to say. Give them time, accommodate their emotions. Yes.
Wow, amazing. When you talk about spending time, yes, I totally agree with that. I think that is something that growing up I experienced. I was lucky that at a certain point, or even before, my dad had businesses. So he made it a point that every time we're on holiday, he took leave.
Oh, that was
He
nice.
took leave from work.
That's a very good dad.
He took leave from work and made sure he stays home with us.
Oh, wow.
Brought us tutors, brought us all kinds of people to teach us and go through homework and teach us things that were maybe not being done well at school. And so I appreciated that. Now that I have children,
Yeah.
I'm also saying, you know
It
what?
does.
Yeah. First with the tutor thing, the whole thought of take leave.
Yes. Yes.
You know that I am taking leave during holidays to just spend it with my children at home. For me, that was amazing. When I remember that, I know that I'm waiting for my girls to grow.
Yeah.
When they start holidays, and those long holidays of probably 3 weeks or a month, I'll make sure I take my leave for them and stay at home with them and be with them, be present, really. I remember my dad doing that, and now, years later, it makes so much sense. But I remember as well that growing up, the minute you had your parents at home, that will not be a very good day, you know?
Yeah.
Because, they're going to be looking out for what have you done wrong, what have you done here, what have you done, all these kind of things. So the environment alone can become very tensed up.
Yes.
And we all know that people even make this joke and say that the minute they had their parents' car putting them they would run to their bedrooms.
Map to everyone, yes. What have you done? Arrange the place.
Exactly. So it brought that as well, but the bigger picture was that he was actually doing this for us. So the environment is definitely something that is important as well. We can't take it out. So I know that there's a statistic about how the environment affects children, and we've also seen it.
Yeah.
Our environment really affects a lot of things in us. So as a child neuropsychologist, please take us through what that is about.
So there was a study that was done in the 1990s where they took 17,000 children, and these children had been exposed to what we call adverse childhood experiences. So I'll just read this because I don't want to get the statistic wrong. There was adverse childhood experiences. It was a study that was done by Dr. Vince Felitti at Kaiser and Dr. Bob Ander at the CDC. And together they asked 17,000 children about their history to the exposure. Listen, I said exposure. So that doesn't mean that it must have happened to you. But if you are exposed to it, if you saw it, if you had it, that means you're also affected. Exposure to what we call ACEs. And these include physical, emotional, or sexual abuse, physical, emotional neglect, parental mental illness, substance dependence, separation, or violence. For every yes that you got on your ACE score, it was correlated to the health outcomes. They found out that ACEs are very common. 67% of the population had at least one ACE. They found out that the relationship between ACEs and health outcomes was very common. For a person of an ACE score of 4 or more, your risk, that means if you had been exposed to any of these that I've said, your risk of engaging in high-risk behavior, chronic high-risk behavior, getting a chronic disease, depression, mental health illnesses, hepatitis, diabetes type 2, suicidality, cancer, heart disease were very, very high. Now, this affects children mostly because at the end of the day, the children's brain is still developing. So when the children's brain is still developing and they're exposed to this advanced childhood experience, it affects the entire body. It affects the immune system, it affects their hormonal system, it affects their prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain that does the thinking, the reasoning. So a child cannot think clearly. They cannot focus. That's how things like ADHD comes in. It affects the nucleus accumbens, which is the part of the brain that rewards pleasure or pain. So you will easily feel the pain. Your emotional brain will be active. It affects parts of the brain like the amygdala, which is the fear response center. So every time you will be in fear, you'll be in a state of fear because of what happened to you, because of the environment, because of this exposure that happened to you when you were a child. So back to your point of environment affects the child even worse than an adult because their brains are still developing.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So we need to watch what we expose our children to and be sure that it's either feeding them well or feeding them negatively.
Yeah.
Right? And this takes me to something I've noticed. It is something that I have noticed amongst us parents that we are doing so much. We always want our children to be connected to something. They're either on phones, they're either on tabs or something. Thankfully, I've been told, or I've heard a lot that it's not good to expose children to TV, to expose them to these gadgets. Let the child be bored.
Yes.
That was a statement. Let them be bored. Let them find joy within just being.
But why be bored?
Doing
Like
what?
coloring. There's art.
Exactly.
There's a lot. What do you mean being bored?
Other things like art, music, instruments. They can play an instrument, take them for a sport, and all these kind of things. So personally, for my children, I'm trying to fight about exposure. So you won't find my children on TV the whole day.
Good job.
We have time for TV and time for not TV. And then no gadgets. Once the tab got spoiled, we never repaired it. Yeah, that was it.
Yeah.
And for that was for my eldest daughter. For the twins, no tabs, my dears, tabs. We shall be home and sing. We shall be home and color. We shall be home. Look for your crayons. Let's get busy on something else. So it is important. You see the power to either increase the stress in the children or lower it lies in our hands as parents. It firstly lies with us. Then the rest, school and all these other people we expose them to, come secondary. But firstly, it lies with us parents. So we need to make sure we do a better job.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for coming along for this episode. This has been awesome having you. And I don't know what Jocelyn has to say for us to just close this up.
Yeah. At the end of the day, let's spend time with our children. Let's get to know them. Let's get to explore what they like, what they love, rather than what the society is actually feeding them.
Yes.
Yeah. But like we said, we do not have great men or great women. We have great boys, great girls who turn into great men, great gentlemen.
But also, as we bust this myth that children are not stressed, if you see your child stressed, please find the help that you need to find. Seek the help. There are people there who are willing to help children go through these stages better. So let's not leave them to chance, and let's treat them better even when they are stressed.
Also, the other thing, maybe before we go, is that when you do a physical for your child, when you take them to the hospital to test for malaria or anything else, but also do the mental health checkup. Find out, does this child have a risk of actually getting depressed, anxious thoughts, because this is what actually starts killing the immunity to bring in these other things like malaria and chronic illnesses. So
that's true.
Take time to actually have a mental health checkup with your child. It doesn't mean that they are mad or anything. It's just wellness. It's just mental wellness. Yes.
So don't forget to like this video, share it with your colleagues, your fellow parents, your school administrator.
Yes.
Children are stressed in school. They need to know how to treat them better. And follow us on our social media platforms. And see you next time. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye.